Hello class, welcome to the second part of this semester. We are now in weeks 4 through 6, and as you'll see I have the lesson plans put up. For this part of the semester we're concerned with Western religions, no longer Eastern religions, and I have the topics of Islam. Then I have Western mysticism, which you have two choices, Sufism or Gnosticism, and this is all for week 4. And then for week 5 we have Judaism. Then we have biblical scholarship of Judaism, and that's going to be a little bit challenging for you guys when you're dealing with biblical scholarship, because we're not looking at, when we're dealing with biblical scholarship, the phenomenological perspective. That's when we're looking at Judaism, it's the phenomenological, it's the believer's perspective. But when we're looking at biblical scholarship, now we're dealing with the academic approach to it, and kind of more historically what might have happened versus what maybe the believer says happened. And there can be sometimes very much a difference there. And then we're dealing with Christianity. I broke Christianity up into these two lesson plans because I thought it was a lot to handle in one. So it's the Christian belief systems, and then the branches of Christianity. And then the last lesson plan for the semester is biblical scholarship of Christianity. Again, a little bit more challenging. It's going to look at who the historical Jesus might have been as opposed to what tradition says. So it's, again, nothing to be offended by. It's more, for instance, where was Jesus really born versus what tradition says? And a small example is tradition says he was born in Bethlehem, but modern day scholarship from the 19th and 20th and 21st century indicates it most likely was Nazareth. Okay, so moving here, let's focus on just week 4 at this point. You'll see that the first bullet says to check an email from me indicating how you did on your midterm, and I was quite impressed with the midterm exams. Some of you did forget to do the preliminary questions, and again, if you want to send it to me this week, I can give you credit for that. But you'll see that the exams do have, the exam links are at the bottom of, I have for midterm at the bottom of week 3, and for the final at the bottom of week 6. If you click on the final exam, you'll see the preliminaries are there as well. Okay, it's a little slow in clicking here. Here we go. We have the directions to the final. Then you have the preliminary. I have the same for the midterm. If you open that up, some very general questions. It just takes a short amount of time to respond to, but it's questions like, for instance, number 6, how did you do on your midterm, and were you asked to do any makeup, and did you include that makeup or not? A lot of you were not asked to do makeup work, but if you were, I want a very specific answer. You know, did you do it or not? That way I don't have to look for it if it's a no there, you didn't do it. And if you did do it, then I'll look through your site to find that. Um, Again, just your name, your post that you've completed, and all that kind of correspondence here. And moving out of the preliminary, for lesson plan 8 and lesson plan 9, let's start with 8. It's on Islam. And you'll have, again, always, and again, I haven't emphasized this enough, but I really think it's so important, is to listen to the required lecture, because it explains it to you in a few minutes what Islam's about. Then you're moving towards the reading, and I have a very short, this is one page. I forgot, I think it's from CNN, but no, it's a, sorry, Huffington Post. And it's, again, some misunderstandings about Islam, and it's only one page. I think it's 5 misunderstandings. Then we have the main reading, which again is the Harvard Columbia website on it. Then this is an LA Times article a few years ago, which is a good one. It's a woman's perspective on Islam, and a woman going on the Hajj to Saudi Arabia and what she experiences. And students, I've had students tell me who are Muslim, they loved that article, so I thought that was a great one to include. This is supplemental, it's the BBC website. Okay, so clicking out of that. The films for Islam. We have, it's under an hour. I try to never go over an hour. This one, I would love to assign more than 30 minutes, but again, I'm limited by the fact that people's attention span usually is not longer than 30 to 40 minutes. But this one is a 3-hour documentary on the life of Muhammad, and it's excellent, and on the teachings of Muhammad. I'm only assigning for you 30 minutes to watch, and it's very superb. It's banned in Iran. Okay, there's a little article explaining why in Iran it is banned, and so that's something that's just fun to look at, but it explains it to you. Then we have John Green's Crash Course, which I always love John Green, and then we have Diane Sawyer, and she explains, it's actually a 5-part series, and I'm only assigning the first part. She explains Islam in America, and I thought that was excellent. The Hajj is just a 3-minute look at what, from National Geographic, what the Hajj experience is about, and that's the pilgrimage to Mecca. It's right here as a scene of it. Okay, so click out of that. The post topic, okay. I give you choice. Sometimes I do the choices. Sometimes I offer you the literature, and so in this case it would be the Quran. If you are Muslim, you wouldn't want to be choosing this one because it's something you're already familiar with. And so it would be this one up here. So if you're not Muslim, again, you have the choices of A or B there. And the exam question should be the 4 bullets. There you go. Okay, clicking out of that, we have Sufism and Gnosticism. Now, Sufism is a mystical form of Islam. And again, you have a choice between 9A and 9B. And if you're confused, you think, well, which one do I do? They're about the same amount of reading, same amount of film watching. They're identical in terms of time. And also, you can choose to do both if you want to do some extra credit. But Sufism is the Islamic mysticism, and they have an aspect of meditation in it. It's very cool. So again, you have the lecture notes. I don't think I have a lecture on that. That's right, I don't. I just have some notes for you. And then the required reading, okay, 2 small articles to read. The short interview is optional, okay. And then we have the film on it and 2 films. And then Oprah has a small, cute, fun thing for 2 minutes to watch, but that again was optional. And so we have Rumi, the famous Sufi mystic, and then Sufism. And they're very much into the concept of ecstatic dance and celebration and connecting with Allah that way. The post here is you can either read Rumi, which is a wonderful, wonderful poetry to read, or you could respond to the topic up here. And then you have your exam question, which are the full 4 bullets. Oh, there you see the Sufi dance. That's a very classic Sufi dance. Okay, clicking out of Sufism, Gnosticism. Now, Gnosticism is no longer Islam. It's now what's we call Judeo-Christian mysticism. Actually, when I went to UC Santa Barbara, I did my master's thesis. I did my PhD on a different topic, but my master's thesis was on Gnosticism. And I was just fascinated by the topic. I have a little lecture on it, explains it to you. I forgot how long that is, but just a few minutes and some notes. The required reading is to read. Here's my master's thesis itself. It's called The Gnostic Mystery. You don't read all of it, of course, but you would just read the abstract, which is just a page, the introduction, which is just like 2 pages, and then the topic called the Gnostic Movement, and then the conclusion, which is a page. So it's not a huge reading assignment. Okay, and Gnostic means knowledge, and what they're really arguing for is that we have access to the spiritual knowledge. And the Christian Gnostics believe that Jesus imparted that spiritual knowledge to them. And the argument is that we're divine. It's very similar to Hindu concepts of Atman as Brahman, and that we need to meditate to achieve this higher knowledge, etc. The film for it, I have Elaine Pagels from Princeton, who's a known scholar in the field. And then I have modern day Gnosticism. It died out. Well, actually, it didn't just die out. It was wiped out by the newly forming Catholic Church. They burned their writings. They declared them heretics. But their writings were discovered in the 1940s in Egypt, and it's called the Nag Hammadi Library. In it, we found several Gospels that people were not familiar with prior. So we have a variety of different Gospels, the Gospel of Mary, the Gospel of Thomas, not Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but other Gospels. And so out of this literature that was discovered in the 1940s, it was published, called the Nag Hammadi Library, and a Gnostic movement was formed in the 20th century out of that. So this is a film on the modern Gnostics. Okay, and then we have the post question. And again, I give you an option to read the Gospel of Thomas, a different gospel than you're probably familiar with. It's not in the New Testament. It's earlier than Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So it's it is the oldest gospel that we have. And then you also have the option up here to do instead. Okay. And if you ever wanted to do both posts, one could be, double post, you can have extra credit for that. Okay, and then this is your exam on it, the 4 bullets. Okay, and that would conclude week 4. When you get to week 5, you'll see you have 3 lesson plans, and Christianity here, lesson plan 12, can go in week 5 or 6, and it kind of piles up a little bit in week 5. I didn't want to give you too much after the midterm, so I made this week not too intense, but if you want to start week 5 early and start lesson plan 10 this week and get it over with and lessen your work for week 5, that's fine. Okay, I hope I gave you a good insight about where we're heading in this class and what week 4 is about, and thank you very much for listening. Namaste.